Suicide. Absolute suicide. Just no need for it. What a waste. I was talking to my neighbour a few weeks ago, and he's lived in the street that I'm in a few years longer than myself, and he was talking about some of the characters in the street who are no longer there. Were there when he first moved in, and there was a chap that him and another bloke in the same road nicknamed Rumsfeld. They called him Rumsfeld because he reminded them of this character in a film that they'd both seen. I said, what film was this? And they said, it's called The Burbs. It's The Burbs, and it's Tom Hanks, a Tom Hanks film. I think it's like late 80s, perhaps early 90s. And I'm thinking, oh, that rings a bell. I've never seen it, and I still haven't, but I went and I looked it up when I got in the house. I love my movie trivia, and it's Bruce Dern. Bruce Dern plays a guy called Rumsfeld in The Burbs, and from what I could see, and from what my neighbour was telling me about the real-life person that he'd nicknamed Rumsfeld, is a kind of militaristic character. I don't know if it's militaristic pretensions. Dresses a bit weirdly. I think the guy in The Burbs used to be in the army, and he's got a real kind of hardcore, it's a comedy, but he's got a hardcore, no mercy, army type attitude towards, I think it's dogs fouling in his garden, neighbours' dogs crapping in the garden, so he's probably launching like kind of operations, clandestine operations at night time, and using all sorts of military parlance when he's trying to track down the people whose dogs are doing their business in his garden. I mean, that kind of thing. It's played by Bruce Dern. And I'm thinking it's probably nicknamed Rumsfeld because at that point in time, Donald Rumsfeld had already been Secretary for Defence, and they say it's no, Secretary of War. It would be in the Gulf of America. He'd been Secretary of Defence, so maybe that's where they got the nickname for the Bruce Dern character. I'm thinking, yeah, he's kind of middle-aged, heading towards his 60s, the Rumsfeld character in The Burbs, and that's probably what the Bruce Dern character in Coming Home would have become if he hadn't committed suicide, if he hadn't killed himself. Coming Home, you ever seen that? I think it's 1978. I can't even remember the names of the characters. John Voight, Jane Fonda, and Bruce Dern's character's off. He's in Vietnam, and he's a kind of a hard ass. He hasn't taken on the kind of hippie thing of trying to tune out and seeing the pointlessness of war. He hasn't been listening to the Doors and all that and smoking the dope while in Vietnam, but when he comes home, he's suffering from really bad PTSD, and he finds out his wife, Jane Fonda, who was the perfect kind of army wife when he left, she's now having it away with a guy who she can't have it away with. I watched this, it was on the telly when I was a kid before I really understood what was going on. Can you feel that? No, but I can see it. What is the John Voight character? He's in a wheelchair. He doesn't feel anything from the waist down, but he's managing to get half with Jane Fonda anyway. So he's still it's working for him. It's the first time I ever heard Bruce Dern. I'm pretty sure Bruce Dern is the first person I ever saw on television using the C word, because he calls her and probably John Voight in that film a bit of a see you next Tuesday or see you next Thursday. Because it's a Europa League night, but he's and I'm like, that's and at the end of the film. I just remember at the end of the film he packs up all his, he takes up all his stuff, like kind of Leonard Rossiter style, and he puts it all on the beach, all his clothes, folds them all up nice and neatly, and he goes off into the water and just and drowns himself, like Reggie Perrin seems to be doing in the opening titles for the Life and Times of Reginald Perrin. We're about the same period anyway, but I thought that's quite ironic because it's Bruce Dern's playing both these characters, and maybe if he just hung on and dealt with his PTSD, he would have had a wee bit of a kind of hangover, obviously, from the Vietnam War, and he might have actually become the character Rumsfeld by the time that the film The Burbs come along, like, mirroring what would have happened to him in real life. Maybe that's why a bit of casting there, a bit of meta casting by the people who did The Burbs. But that was a bit of suicide that was totally unnecessary, and it turned out all right in the end, and we could all kind of laugh about it. So does that make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. Not a lot does it? How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Ek immediate post. Rangers have got a point on board. Rangers have scored their first home goal of the Europa League group stages this season. Rangers have avoided, thank Christ, is it equaling or setting a new Scottish record? I don't really feel like looking into these things too closely, of losing 8 consecutive. This would have been the 8th consecutive loss in Europe for Rangers. I don't know if that's equaling a Scottish record, as I say, or setting a new one, but it would have been pretty blooming harrowing, and we always knew that the only way they were ever going to stop doing that was still going to involve a lot of pain and a wee bit of suicide. and it did. But we've got ourselves off the bottom of that Europa League table as well. I think we're up to like 4th bottom now, getting a nosebleed. Reaction pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet tomorrow night. It's the Friday pod. Maybe by the time you see this, it's tonight, 9 p.m. Friday. I think it's going to be Brian hosting Ross, so that'll be a good one. They get plenty to talk about with the game here tonight against Braga, and they'll be looking ahead to the visit of the Bairns on Sunday. I'm sponsored by that, and I'm also sponsored by. Have you ever seen these things? These kind of ceramic hearts. I don't know if they're the actual size of a real life heart, but they look quite realistic. They're all kind of veiny and what have you, but it's the exact same design, and people have got them. Usually, if they've got a wee wall at the front of their garden, they've got them kind of affixed to the side of the gate on the wee kind of pillar on their wall that's holding the gate. There's 2 or 3 of them running about my area. I don't know if they've got them running about your area, and I don't know what they're all about. Is it some sort of cult? They're all exactly the same shape. It's just like, you know, if you get a dish or something like that, or something to hold your potpourri, and you can get it in 4 or 5 different colours, but it's exactly the same design. It's been made at the same, you know, kind of cast type thing. It's the exact same design, same size, but I've seen them in gold, I've seen them in yellow, I've seen them in red. And they seem to be fixed outside folks. I don't know, is it something like a cult of the Sacred Heart or something? The Jewish folk have got these things on their door jams. I don't know if it's a different kind of religion version of that, or maybe it's not fans of the the group Heart. How can I get you alone? I don't know if it's that, but if you know what they're all about, you're going to let me know. I've seen them a few places because I'm kind of West End adjacent in Glasgow, and there's a lot of wanky kind of arty types round about. So they'll do wee bits of street art, pop-up art, all that kind of stuff. I think yarn bombing's frowned upon where I come from. That's too on the nose. So there's a building just down the road from me, which. It used to be an old massive kind of villa, an old Victorian villa type thing, and there's been flats built upon it. Look like a kind of 70s job, maybe late 60s, 70s job, this big block of flats. But the old wall of the old kind of mansion, let's call it a mansion, that's what I always imagine it to be, it still goes round little parts of the garden, between the pavement and the gardens of the flats, and there's a wee doorway which kind of leads to nothing. They've not even got a path behind it, it's all been allowed to grow over. But it's obviously an old kind of gateway entrance into the building that was there before these flats. And for a year or so, I would always walk down, it's on a kind of main road, and I would always walk down past this, and it had a red, one of these ceramic heart things. It was a red one that was affixed to it. And then one day I walked, I thought, what the hell's that? And I saw them a few other places. I've never really found out what they're all about. I've tried looking up on the internet, but I get nothing except stuff about hearts. So one day I walked past it again, but it was gone. But yet there was a big splash of red paint where it had been running down the kind of, the gate post that it had been fixed to, and down onto the pavement. And I thought, this must be an arty thing. It's like we've pulled off that heart and it's bled down onto the pavement. But then I saw gold ones, yellow ones, blue ones, affixed different outside folks' houses run about where I stay. So if you know what that's all about, going to let me know. I mean, what is that all about? That's something we were shouting tonight. Yeah, I'm sponsored by that. I say my name's Alec Anderson. I think I'm gonna be sad. I think it's today. Yeah, the girl that's driving me mad is going away. She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride, and she don't care. She said that living with me is bringing her down, yeah. And she won't ever be free if I'm around. She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride. But it's a QR code. So it's stuck on, you have to get it printed off because she can't work it on her phone because she's too old. And then she's putting it into the turnstile reader thing today, and it's not working. Folk don't know how to work these QR code things. There's an old fella actually in front of me. I mean, if I'm calling him an old fella, he must be well old. And I felt heart sorry for him. He's got it printed off. the ticket for the game because they're moving it on to the QR code to the European games. It was the same thing we did when we were at Hampden last season, so it's not about the 49ers enterprises at Parag Marathi, who helped build the stadium, is kind of chiefly responsible for all the logistics and machinations of getting the 49ers moved from Candlestick Park to the Levi Stadium. I was reading about him the other day and all the stuff he's done, and apparently it's completely on an app. Everything's app based. I think if you want to get drinks, your tickets, whatever, when you're going to see the 49ers at Levi Stadium, it's all on an app, and it's this is what they're bringing in here, obviously, and it's not working. It's not working so far. They didn't bring in Thelwell, they didn't bring in Patrick Stewart, but it's one of the things maybe we want to get rid of, or help explain to folk. But it causes a bit of ructions in this old fella tonight. He's put the QR code in, and I think the guy in front of him's pushed the turnstile on once more than he should, really, but I saw it going green, and then the turnstile jams on him. By the time the steward comes up, it's like, oh, I'm going to have to go and get my supervisor and that to try. And I was like, just get the fella in. And I'm thinking, and this happened to me before years ago, and it won't surprise you, years ago when I was in the Govan, one boy jumped in behind me. As I was going through the turnstile, and it's the big kind of, it's a full length type turnstile. There's not a lot of room. They're designed just to let one person in at a time, and it's been a long time since anybody's able to squeeze in behind me. So I'm saying to him, if I was a bit thinner, mate, or if I wasn't anyway thin, you could get in, you could squeeze in with me. Well, I squeezed in with you then. I'm like, oh, didn't he? So I'm like, oh, it was brutal. I felt it because I knew it wasn't going to work. So he's wanting to go in first. And I'm like, no, I'll go in first because I knew he was to go. And he just couldn't get in behind me at all. I'm such a fat, morbidly obese. And it's been that kind of night, really. It has been that kind of awful, terrible night. I mean, that was Ticket to Ride by Motorhead. I didn't realise Motorhead. I didn't realise Lemmy for Motorhead. It's a lovely name, isn't it, little Lemmy? It's quite a cute kind of nickname. His real surname is Killmister. I don't know if he changed it to that, Killmister. Surely that's better if you want to do the kind of proto thrash metal that he was doing with Motorhead, their kind of dark vibe. The Motorhead was given us. Lemmy, I think he died nearly 10 years ago. It's 10 years ago. It's Christmas Eve, I think, his birthday. I don't think that. I looked it up in Wikipedia 5 minutes ago. But his real name. I've found this out recently that his real name is Killmister. I'm thinking, why you really stick to that? That's much more kind of rock and roll. But it becomes Lemmy, and I feel it's the same kind of identity crisis getting to the Rangway Round with Rangers when it comes to the Europa League these days. The Thursday night, Ibrox baby, that phrase, the first time we played Braga here, the first time we ever met Braga, the first leg of the first tie we played against Braga was the very first match Rangers played in the 2020s. 2-0, 0-2, 2020, and we were 2-0 down, and H.E.A scored 2 goals, and we ended up going through. And again with the part I was giving you last night, but that was one of the. We're on our way already. We've done that whole thing with Steven Gerrard of going through 4 qualifying rounds. 2 seasons in the trot, and then in the second season we got out the group as well, and this was us taking that stage further every season, and eventually Steven Gerrard leaves, but we go all the way on to the final. And when he started as manager, the same season in which he started as manager for the last time for Rangers, it's just been a beautiful thing for us, the Europa League. And this season it's been horrendous, and to have no wins in our first 4 games and facing that typical Rangers thing. I've talked about this before, folks. This is why tonight was horrendous. Okay, when you take it on its own, when you can taste victory, when things look like it's going to go okay, but you have to remember the bigger picture. And I think I said in the preview pods, I would sign a Faustian pact to get a point. I would bite your hand off for a point in this game. Braga are far, far better than us. They're a really good, really silky football team, and what Rangers did with them tonight was, for the first hour, absolutely perfect. It was a tactical masterclass by our absolute gem of a manager. We have got a gem. I said gem, no a German. I know he's German. He's a gem of a manager. What happened thereafter will no doubt be getting discussed far and wide, and for many a long hour in Rangers land, how much we made an arse of us, how much we arsed it up. But that's what happens. That's what happens when it's you're in a painfully brutal run to dig your way out of it. This is the way it happens. You got to take it in the chin. It's going to be painful. And I said I was kind of black superstition or kind of morbid thinking. Is like, I bet we'll be 3-0 up and then we'll concede 3 goals in second half injury time. But that's when you say that you would take a point, and it was something akin to that. It wasn't quite as bad as that, but it was getting there. So I'm not going to go against my word last night. I wanted a point any way I could, because we were threatening to do that thing, as I say, of what Rangers have been doing since I don't know, breaks out the whole 21st century. Like, I think a lot of it is just kind of the situation we're in Scotland, where we're a massive club in a very small league, and it leads to, we should be in a bigger setup. We should be, the infrastructure we've got, the size of our support, our stadium, our history. It lends itself to making it realistic that Rangers get to European finals. But then the league we're playing in, the demographics of the actual league itself and where Scotland sits in European football just pulls us back. It's a kind of Newton's third law of motion thing. If you overextend yourself like a big stretch in a big elastic band, occasionally it slaps back. So you have us, for instance, getting to the 2008 UEFA Cup final, first European final in 36 years, just one of the most emotional, amazing moments of my entire life supporting Rangers. Something I had to do as a Rangers fan, get to see Rangers at a European final, and then the following season, ping, we go out in the first game, Kaunas, we're out of Europe, straight out of Europe. You guys get into another European final, 2022. Fantastic, that's us back. We're truly back from the traumas of being in the lower leagues. It's a magnificent, amazing thing. Leipzig here in the second leg of that semi-final, the best thing that has happened to most Rangers supporters of my generation, the best game I've ever been at. And the following season, we're chasing down all the records in the Champions League, all the negative records in the Champions League. Just getting horsed 7-1 by Liverpool, and this is the way it goes for Rangers. We have an absolutely magnificent time where we totally excel. We almost overreach ourselves. Sorry for the noise, folks. Very, very windy here. And the following season, it's quite atmospheric, actually. It's quite in keeping. It's a bit pathetic fallacy. Dicing with disaster as we do. When we overextend ourselves one season and the following season we get kind of slapped back in the face. But it's been cruel generally in the 2020s in particular. The Europa League's just been lovely since 2018, really. Since 2018 when Steven Gerrard came in, the Europa League's been a consolation. It's been the one thing where I've always been able to say to folk, right, we didn't, we're not keeping up with Celtic at all. And the domestic situation, we're just not winning anywhere near enough domestically, but in Europe we're outdoing Celtic. We're constantly performing better than Celtic, and you get more praise for that. Nobody really cares round about Europe what happens in Scotland. They care about what you do in Europe, and it's been brilliant. And I think it's been pretty horrible this season where we're doing nothing in either sphere. Nothing domestically, and heading for an all-time terrible record in Europe after last season getting to a quarter-final and finishing 8th in the first ever Swiss system style Europa League group stage. We finished 8th and qualified automatically, put out Fenerbahce thereafter, end up in a quarter-final. We're unlucky to go out in a quarter-final, and it's just par for the course that within the same calendar year we're heading for an all-time, certainly an all-time Rangers records. We've already created that with 7 straight European defeats. But as I say, I think it might actually have been a new Scottish record, if not equaling the old Scottish record of 8 straight defeats if we had lost this game tonight. See, my name is Alec Anderson, folks, and I'm talking to you immediately after Rangers have drawn 1 each with SC Braga. Our third meeting with SC Braga at Ibrox in the UEFA Europa League group stage, match day 5, and getting our first point of the campaign, scoring our first goal at Ibrox, only our second goal of this Europa League group stage campaign, and avoiding defeat for the first time in 8 consecutive European games, going back into our that's more impressive than people realise Champions League qualifying campaign. I know we took a bit of a tanking off old Bruges eventually, but nobody expected us to get as far as a playoff round in that one. It's been a week that started on Monday. That started with a celebration about the avoidance of a negative, or stopping the negatives. This wasn't a thing to celebrate greatly tonight. It was all about stopping the negative stuff. The fact that Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart have been doing such a bad job, and that's we saw the material effect of that in the way we conceded our equaliser tonight. But they're gone, and that's a massive relief to everybody. We can start building, and it's the thing to avoid finishing getting a total granny in this group stage to have no points. That's been avoided. That's been avoided tonight. And as I say, these things always tend to be painful. The realists of the world will no doubt be saying, no, when you get ahead in a game, doesn't matter what the situation was coming into that game. When you get ahead in a game, this is really insulting, sorry, I'm imitating Rangers supporters here, kind of dumbing down their voice, which is difficult for me since my voice is kind of pretty dumb to start with. But I'm being kind of horrible at this, but you're 1-0 up, you should... against 10 men, you should see the game out, and shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's not actually the most realist attitude is to know that in a game like this, when you're playing against a team who are better than us, I know they're struggling a wee bit by their own standards, Braga, in the Premier League just now, but they're 7th in that table, a big table. They're 5th. They were 5th at the start of the day in the Europa League group stage. They'll have slipped down now. They won their first 3 games. They lost their 4th game, but they'd won 3 in the bounce, Braga, and they're absolutely scintillating this season in Europe. They've been through 3 qualifying rounds to get into the Europa League, all Europa League qualifiers. So they're in fine form, and we've done really well. They'd won 6 in a row, basically. 3 ties and another 3 group games in the Europa League this season. So we've done. What you've got to do is just find any moment in that game, any way to get ahead, to get yourself on the board. Braga have scored 1 goal at some point in the game. We had to score a goal, and we did it. We made it happen, and that's what's happened tonight. And I'm really proud of the players, to be quite honest with you. Although it's been shown up just how poor the players are, and the way we conceded the equaliser, especially. But I'll go back to the starting lineup. Very interesting. I thought it might have, because obviously we're missing John Souttar, we're missing Derek Cornelius. We might never see Derek Cornelius again at Rangers, being on loan and being out until at least the end of January. We're missing basically 2 kind of first choice centre halves. So we've stuck with Nasser H.E.A and Emi Fernandez, who are a bit shaky in their own particular ways. And I thought Tavernier's going to be in there beside them tonight to supervise them, to kind of look after them, babysit them, and we'll play with the 2 wing backs. We'll go with the kind of 3 centre halves at the back, and the wing backs who can drop back to make it 5 at the back. But no, we went with 4 at the back, and Tav was playing the right wing. It was H.E.A and Fernandez at centre half. So I'm pretty sure that's Emi Fernandez's first European game. Must be. He's scored against Alloa in the League Cup. He scored against Livingston in the SPFL Premiership. So just that's him playing in Europe now. Just a matter of time. He's scoring the win on the Champions League final. It's going to be a big Calvin Bassey speed of rise, I think, for Emi Fernandez. He's going to be sold for 40 million, and Kevin Thelwell will be sending us all an email going So it was Max Aarons at left back. Remember that at the beginning of the season, Max Aarons against Panathinaikos and all that. Max Aarons played it right back finally against Polzenia. We beat them 3-0 here at Ibrox. That was why, because we had to get that was going to be the answer to everything. We had to get Tav out of right back and get Max Aarons into right back. Stop wasting that young fella at left back, because we all knew, having never seen him play, how good he was going to be at right back. That was the crisis back then. So it's a bit of a slap in the face, I think, for Jayden Magoma, an actual left back that he's stuck on the bench tonight as Max Aarons comes in playing on the other side, the one he would like to. It's left back in middle of the park. I think it was 4-2-3-1 we set up, and it's Connor Barron and Nico Raskin as the sitting 2, and then DIOMANDE goes up and he plays number 10, or number 10 plays number 10. That was good. JD Gasma is on the right hand side, that kind of inside right role, and on the left we had Danilo. And Big Chermiti was the lone striker up front, if you like, although obviously very much supported by the cast of 3 behind him. And I wasn't expecting us to go with 2 strikers. Big Chermiti playing against his countryman Danilo, another Portuguese speaker. You're thinking maybe they're there to noise him up, get in a junior style. There's a lot of juniors kind of football aspect to this. Danilo kind of Auchinleck against Cumnock. Winton Rovers against Salkits Vix, let's do it right. Kind of Rustin Winton Rovers against Salkits Vix type stuff going on tonight. I thought about the game, but maybe they're in there just giving it, your mom. I've Danilo's gone, see your mom, mate, by me after. In Portuguese, obviously, and then Chermiti's gone, not actually, I know his mum, she's really nice. All right, okay, she used to give me a lift to training when we were kids and that. We all went to the same academy. All right, okay, that's fine, sorry about that. But maybe that was some sort of advantage it was thought to be. But Danilo was playing, he was playing quite wide left, really. It's inside left, I think. I thought he might be a bit closer to Chermiti. We're trying to go with two up front. But I like that. It ends up, that kind of, the result of that, it did it under Philippe Clement at Diomande, where he played this an out-and-out 10 role. But it was always at the front. He felt it was at the front of a triangle. He's the point of a triangle. And Barron and Conor Barron and Nico Raskin in there with him. He scored a few goals as well. I think he was scoring against Hearts. He scored away to St Johnstone's under Michael Beale. But he played that role before at Diomande. But tonight, I felt as if it was going back to that kind of destroyer role. We've got the little triangle of destruction, which I loved last season in Europe. And it's one of the things I have to look up. It's like, great band lineups or something like that. They actually only played 2 concerts together and then they split up. And I think the Aberdeen, the Gothenburg 11 of Aberdeen, see that biblical draw tonight, Aberdeen, they only played 2 games together, and that was the second one. It was a cup final in 1983, but the Gothenburg lineup only played the Cup Winners' Cup final, beating Real Madrid in that Scottish Cup final, where they were really lucky to beat Rangers. Miller and McLeish won that game for Aberdeen. But that kind of, I feel as if they probably played about 3 times together in Europe, but I've kind of made them legends, made it legendary in my own head, where it's Nico Raskin, Mo Diomande and Conor Barron. I felt as if away to Olympiakos last season, did the 3 of them play in that one? And it was just, I just got it in my head that it's brilliant. In Europe, they're brilliant. They get in the face. It's like they start the press, or they start the kind of defence right up at the edge of the opposition box. They get in it, they're destroying as much as they're creating. And in a way, it's a kind of slightly different version of another legendary 3 across 3 midfielders, really. For me, it was when we played 4-3-3 under Steven Gerrard. And again, they probably played together as the 3 in midfield about twice. But and it felt as if both times it was at Easter Road. It's when we'd Steve Davis, Glenn Kamara and Ryan Jack, and thought, it's such a negative defence, it's such a negative midfield, I don't like this bloody magic. They would just stop everything in front of them and ping it straight back into the box for Ryan Kent, Joe Aribo and Alfredo. But anyway, let's not go back, let's not wish for what we can't have, because they get slagged rotten at the time as well. We never really appreciate what we've got at Rangers, so I thought this is good, and it was a tactical masterclass. It was phenomenal. First 12 minutes, they didn't get out their own half. Braga, and I think they're nicknamed. Are they nicknamed the Arsenal, or are they nicknamed the Gunners because they've got the red top with the white sleeves? Is it a deliberate thing? I've not really looked into the history in that respect, Braga. But tonight I properly respected Braga, not the way they were playing during the game, but as an opponent, as an event in itself. Rangers versus Braga. It's the 3rd time I've seen this. It's the 3rd time in 5 years that we've played them. It's the first time we've played them before Christmas in Europe, and it was really reminiscent. The night, the weather, very, very blustery. The park's a bit better condition. You'll have watched all the replays of the night that H.E.A scored 2 goals and Joe Aribo scored the other one, where we came back from 2-0 down against Braga at home the first time we played them in February 2020. But that night it was really kind of wet and blustery round about, and there's something blowing about. I think there's bits of black kind of bin bag blown about the pitch when Ruiz works in that second goal for Braga on the night. But it was very much like that. But when they come out onto the park, you notice straight away how they can never be Arsenal because they're wearing red shorts. Guys, I'm sorry to go off on that. It's kind of a bad night. Everybody's feeling it. Celtic have won away to Feyenoord in a rematch of the 1970 European Cup final, so there may be a lot of Celtic fans coming on thinking, you mucked that up, maybe coming on for a bit of a laugh or whatever. So I'm duty bound to do some kind of boring stuff to get rid of the ambulance chasers. It never does, I know. What am I talking about? So there's somebody walking past. It's really, really windy, and there's folk walking past here, and it's all quite distracting to see what folk are up to. I'm talking about the Arsenal. The guy who does the Museum of Jerseys, an Irish fella, does the Museum of Jerseys website, which is really good. You should check it out. Lots of details about jerseys, about strips, about football strips. And he said a few years ago that Arsenal, I don't know when this was, maybe 6, 7, could be ending up to 10 years ago. When you get to my age, the years just fly by. But Arsenal were playing live in the telly in Europe one midweek, and I don't know where they were playing, but they were forced to wear their red shorts. And he said it was like the first time in like 40 years, or 40 odd years, I think, at that point, that Arsenal had worn red shorts with their home top and home socks. And you didn't recognise them. You think it wouldn't make much difference, but it makes all the difference in the world aesthetically, and I think that showed up the night when you see Braga again coming out, and I'm thinking, it's Braga. They've got that kit on again. No, they wore their away kit at Parkhead this season, but it's Braga at Ibrox, and it's a bit of an event. It's quite a thing. They're a European finalist. They've got a bit about them, Braga, as a club. They're quite an attraction. They've always got really good players, or any time we've played them. So, and they do play nice football when they want to play football. But that strip, they should. Never mind being Arsenal, because it's nothing like Arsenal. You just have to change it. It's quite a thing. Just changing the shorts to red. It completely changes the vibe. And I was just looking at them thinking, yeah, the white sleeves either side of it, that's like the mountainside really of their home stadium, the municipal stadium in Braga, and the red, because it's kind of red plunging right through that, the way they just chiselled that stadium right out of the mountainside in their big stadium. Yeah, so it was nice to see Braga anyway. Just we come to the park at first, and they've got the red and white on, and we've got the blue and the white and the red and black socks, and I think the mascots were all wearing a kind of blue and yellow outfit. It was really garish and a lot of clashing colours, really bright and colourful. And I think it's been such a dull, horrible day of constant rain. It's really windy as well. It was just lovely to see it out on the park, under the floodlights. This is what it's all about. It's about lighting up our lives in the winter months as European football. And really worried about what Rangers are going to do tonight, how we're going to get on, but we just decided to play the game. And they made us shoot towards, I'm sure it must have been Braga's idea, to make us shoot towards the Copeland Road first half. Probably just a judgment based on the way the wind was blowing. And that was quite strange as well. But then Rangers kept them in the Copeland Road half of the pitch for the first 12 minutes. Really. And I say 12 minutes because I think the 12 to 13 minute mark, Braga finally showed a couple of wee touches up front as to why we were doing this. They finally had a couple of shots on goal, or a couple of balls played through that looked quite dangerous. And that was the first we'd seen of them, but I was really enjoying what Rangers were doing. You can see we're just right on top of them, and I was talking in the preview pod about how the game Braga lost, most of their goals are scored on the deck. Beautiful footballers, very, very good at constructing stuff with the ball at their feet, but when Genk, who played here at Ibrox and were awful, DIOMANDE get sent off that night as well. We were playing against them with 10 men and we almost drew with them. Genk were terrible, and they went over to Braga and they beat Braga. Last time out in this competition, they went over and they beat Braga, and one of the goals they scored, Genk, was just by pressing Braga really high as Braga tried to play the ball out from the back, and they pinched the ball off them. And I think it's been... Maybe Danny Röhl has been watching my podcast, or maybe he's done his own research, who knows, who could tell. But he's definitely taken that hint anyway, and I think he also just knows we're going to get destroyed. If we let them play football against us, the guy, H.E.A and Zalazar, Big Navarro up front, these guys are going to take us to pieces. They're just going to slice and dice us, so let's not let them get out their own half. Let's keep them up there. It was quite a brave game plan, and it made total sense as well. It's a big Chermiti's running his backside off. Danilo's running about as much as Danilo can run about. The gas is going everywhere, and you've got this destroyer midfield three in the kind of shape of a triangle. Conor Barham is sensational, I thought, tonight, and DIOMANDE was doing okay as well. Thought he was doing really well. Nico Raskin putting himself about, getting into it, and we're just getting the ball cleared. Tav was having a few moments of not being able to just connect with anybody with the ball. It was a few stray balls from Tav, but we were keeping it away from our defence. We were keeping it away from our ropey defence, and we were keeping the ball in their half, shutting them down. And I say, it got quite juniors, the kind of blustery conditions, and it was the fact that we're right on top of them. I think there was man marking going on at times for Rangers as well, but we're just right on top of them in their own half, no sitting back and letting them play out from the back and get a silky groove going on. We're just stamping all over them as soon as they try to get out their own 6-yard box, basically. And there was lots of these kind of 50-50s going on that weren't blood and thunder. This happened all game, blood and thunder, kind of one-on-one, two guys going for a loose ball. But it was standing start. Right, you've got the ball, I'm going to juke past you, and we'd dribble past them, they'd dribble past us, but then we'd check, but the guy who'd just been beaten would come back and check back, and you really had to fight for every inch tonight. Rangers turned it into a bit of a war of attrition. It wasn't the prettiest game in the world to watch at this point in time, but I was loving it. I was just loving the tactical acuity from our head coach. who's obviously come in and just looked at this is the best thing we can do here. Using all his experience from Bayern, from the national Mannschaft, just using all his experience possible. How are we going to get something out of this? How are we going to stop this Braga team running all over us? And he found it the perfect way to do it. Rangers just played it brilliantly, and as the game went on, Braga get more and more kind of ratty. There was a moment round about the 33-minute mark, something like that. It was the first kind of proper chance I think we got. There wasn't a lot of shots going on target. There was a point, different crowd, not a big crowd tonight. I had convinced myself that everybody was so delighted that Thelwell and Stewart were gone that the place would be absolutely rocking tonight. With no tifo from the Union Bears, plenty of singing. There's constant singing from the Union Bears just as well, but it was a kind of low hum almost. There wasn't a lot of atmosphere about the stadium for most of the game, and I think the way the game was being played, Rangers just killing the game. I think that lent itself to that, and there's a different crowd at European games, as you know. A couple of Dutch guys sitting behind us tonight. A lot of season ticket holders not taking up the option. £44 a ticket coming up to Christmas. You can't really blame anybody the way this season started. I do. I blame everybody who doesn't go to every single home game, because that's what I do. So that makes me. I don't go to any away games, but somehow I get this kind of snobby thing about me. If you're going to support Rangers, then if you want to have the right to moan about them, then you've got to. It's absolute nonsense. But there's a couple of Dutch guys behind us, and at first, this is a thing that happens, that the seat right behind me isn't a season ticket seat, so a lot of European games, it hasn't been for years, ever. It's just a single seat. But what happens a lot of times is folk will come along, the European games that don't come to normal games, and they're always mental. They're always absolutely not. That's fine, we're here to be mental, we're here to go crazy at the FITBA. But a lot of times they're very drunk, and they have this thing of trying to prove how, staunchly Rangers they are by shouting kind of silly stuff and just being a lot more kind of animated than they have to be. It gets a bit, it's a bit weird, the season ticket thing. It makes everybody in your area that knows everybody else, you get a bit kind of, a stranger at times. I try not to do that because it's not nice. But you notice it at times. There's a couple of fellas in, because of so many empty seats, there's a couple of fellas in behind us tonight, and we've had a few incidents in the past in that area with folk turning up gassed or whatever, and creating a bit of havoc. But so you're kind of wary of it, and I'm like, at first I'm looking at the folk that sit next to me, my pals, we're like, what is going on here? These guys can hardly make it a wordless. We're only saying this, but we're all thinking this at the same time. They sound so kind of nasally, and we thought we were doing that proper kind of Glasgow thing. Anyway, man, I don't know what you're talking about. But eventually it broke down. They're Dutch. Dutch. Or Belgian, or, don't know, Luxembourg, whatever. They're definitely speaking Dutch anyway. And that makes sense. Actually, the guys were perfectly sober. But the ganja that we could smell was probably coming from, kind of more local people. But at one point, the seats in front of us, it was a dad with his wee girl. I don't know what kind of age, just primary school age or something. Anyway, at one point she goes, "Oh look," and just points, just because there wasn't a kind of, it wasn't a very noisy atmosphere for most of the first half. And it was that thing, the paper bag was blown around, American Beauty, Sam Mendes. It's this paper bag. It wasn't a plastic. It was a napkin or something, a hanky or something, just blown, and it kept swirling around, just at the front of the main stand, like between the club deck and coming down towards the front of the top of the main stand, at the second tier of the main stand. And it wasn't the fact that she was going, "Oh look," it was the fact that about a dozen 40, 50 and 60 odd year old guys just talking about, it's beautiful. We were all looking at it at the same time, because the football wasn't sensational. But I remember that just after the half hour mark, I think it was Tav knocks the ball up to Dio, who's got his back to goal, but a lovely turn, and he immediately plays in Danilo, who's coming in for the left hand side, but it's just a wee bit behind him. He can't quite get the ball from his feet, he can't quite get the shot away, but it was a sign of what we were trying to do. And what you're seeing is that we're winning some corners after that. It was like the containment part of the exercise had worked, and now we're going for goal. We're going to actually try and win this game. You knew you were in for a long night, the way we were setting out here, but we didn't get the goal at that point in time. But James Tavernier making his, or setting the record, was it 63, 64? You've been watching the telly, you'll know better than me off the top of your head. He set the record tonight, I'm sure, for a player playing for one club in the Europa League group stages in terms of number of appearances. And probably the start of his greatest run in the Europa League was that night in the Westfalen, which started with a penalty, a handball that Tav puts away, a penalty for handball, and none of us saw the handball, and maybe it was really obvious in the telly, but nobody had an idea. It was a corner to Rangers. The ball gets cleared, and then suddenly there's a VAR check. I went, this will do fine. And after a long VAR check to up the atmosphere, bang. It was a penalty to Rangers, and I was feeling for Tav. I thought, I don't want him to use the ball, and I thought, it's no fair if Tav ends up missing this. And he's going to get a total slagging, and he's been a stalwart in what's been a really difficult season, as he always is. Just because most of his seasons that he's involved in are difficult, folk tend to think that he's the reason they're difficult. But up he steps, and he sticks it away. And that's him. He scored. That's the second penalty he scored against Braga, and he's now the guy. I said last night, H.E.A has scored twice in Rangers Braga games. Abel Ruiz has scored twice in Rangers Braga games. So I'm hiding from some folk that are obviously trying to get involved. And that's James Tavernier has scored twice in Rangers Braga games. The 2 goals he scored against them in the second leg of the quarter-final. Back in that same run that properly started at the Westfalen, and that's him scored 3. The only guy to score 3 goals in Rangers Braga games, James Tavernier. That was injury time in the first half. Absolutely fantastic. It's gone, according to better than I could possibly have hoped for. And in the second half, we started at the same pace. We started exactly the same way, making it known straight away that we're going to be getting ripped in about them, not letting Braga get on the ball. They're getting more ratty. We had chances, didn't we? I can't even remember the chances. Sorry, that's the wind, the tempestuousness of this game, matched by the tempestuousness of the weather. And I think we had the better of the play, and Braga weren't enjoying it at all. They'd made a substitution. I think it's a Moroccan fellow they brought on, number 9. And then it was round about. I think we had a couple of goals on goal. We had a couple of clearances off the line almost. Or certainly one clearance off the line at some point, Braga. And then I just saw Raskin on the deck, and he's staying on the deck. And I thought he's staying on the deck because he's been decked. He wants a red card appeal. A few Rangers players making their way towards his assailant, giving it the old, what are you up to, mate? I thought, there's something in this. And the thing that really gave it away was Braga. I'm talking about the juniors. It was very reminiscent of the juniors. 3 Braga players, Braga immediately, as the referee was kind of trying to sort out other stuff and try to work out what had happened. There was a hold up in play. They try to make a triple substitution. Maybe they've been planning that anyway, but they're trying to make a triple substitution before the referee can get notified by VAR. And the number 2 that they were bringing on, he's out on the park. He's crossed the line and he's out in the park and he's kind of shouting at Zalazar, the number 10. I was getting him mixed up with Navarro in terms of the goals he scored in the previous games when I was doing the preview pod last night. The big Navarro, the big striker who's on loan from Porto, but who's actually Spanish. But Salazar, who's born in Spain but plays for Uruguay and is a tasty player. He's scored about 10 goals already this season in all competitions. He's the number 10 for Braga, and they were just like, take him off. It was like, no, we're just going to substitute him anyway, ref. Don't send him off because we're going to sub him off. He's getting a bit ratty. No, don't worry, we'll take it. The kind of agreements that used to happen in the juniors, it doesn't happen anymore. Any level of football, VAR check, and it took forever. I mean, it was taking so long. I'm thinking, it needs to be something really visible. When you're talking about somebody getting sent off, the ref needs to see it straight away. The longer he was taken by the screen by the side of the park to check it, the less chance I thought there was of a red. But no, out came that red card. And it's like, this has just gone absolutely brilliantly. We're 1-0 up, and now we're a man up as well. We're going to see this. We're going to end up with the 3 points. Never think that. Never form that thought, Alec. Never form that thought completely, even in your head, even if you didn't say it out loud. Because from that moment on, they kind of dominated us. They really did dominate us. I don't know if we'd actually just run out of steam because we're putting so much into the game, chasing them down, hunting them, trying to keep them in their own half to stop them getting near us. Or it's that whole thing where teams get a bit emboldened because they've got nothing to lose when they're down to 10 men. A combination of two things. I think probably when they went down to 10 men, Rangers had put so much into the game they couldn't help taking a breather more than anything else. And then they started going really direct as well. And they started doing what all teams who've watched us tend to do. The research tends to tell them, lump it onto the centre halves and you're going to get something out of them. They did a bit more of that, Braga, and it was about 8 minutes later. I was laughing as well. I'm talking about not being too positive, thinking I've been really overly superstitious. But when they got that shy, that should have been a corner. It was, I think it was a kind of a slightly misjudged ball header backwards from Big Emmy Fernandez going back towards Jack Butland. Jack Butland was struggling to get to it. I think it should have been a bit more comfortable than it was. Just a nod back to the keeper, and in front of me, I'm sure it was a couple of yards over the line. I'm sure it was a corner. Jack Butland punts it into the stand, taking a lesson from Hibs, from Big Rocky Bashiri at Hibs. Just kick the thing, even if it is deep in the back of the net, and there's every chance Rangers won't get a goal. So he kicked it into the main stands, and it was a shy. And we were all sitting going, "What's a shy?" I think I actually said to the guy in front of me, "I like this linesman. I like this line." Just as Braga took the shy that they were protesting should have been a corner, and after, it was a car crash. It was a footballing car crash. Big Nasser H.E.A. completely misjudged. I actually need to see it again because it was so bad. It switched off a bit of my brain. The bits that are left, it was traumatic, and they just walk the ball into the back. He's basically the guy gets the ball on a plate and kind of walks it into the back of the net, and you're like, that's so cheap. It's so just disastrous, calamitous car crash. We've played this game so well, and right there in that moment, you have why Danny Röhl will keep being undermined despite all his brilliance by the sheer paucity of talent, the lack of talent, the negligible capabilities of the players that have been brought in this summer to destroy this Rangers squad. And I felt sorry for Nasser H.E.A. by the time. It was windy. I haven't seen it. I need to see it back in telly, folks. Maybe I'm miscalling him or whatever. It was very windy tonight, as I say. Maybe it get caught in the wind, but later on, I think as we're getting towards the 90th minute, and I'm thinking a draw is the best we're going to get here, and a draw would be great for us, considering what's gone on before. He just passed the ball with the ball in plenty of space, plenty of time at the back, and he just passed the ball straight to a Braga player, and I thought, the big man's having a nightmare. And he put his hands to his head, and he was having to get consoled by his teammates. It's getting to him. He's just having a terrible, terrible time of things, and I felt heart sorry for him by the end of things. But to then, we took off Conor Barron. I think we did about 5 substitutions in the second half. We brought in Thelwell to little or no effect. Ant-Man come on eventually. He gave the ball away as well. Very ineffective. Max Aarons, I think he got injured, but on came Jaden Magoma for him. And we had, who did we have? It was Conor Barron come off, I think, around about 78, 79 minutes, and we brought on Bojan Majowski. By that point in time, I'd lost track of what we're trying to do. But maybe the manager has just decided, or the head coach, Danny Röhl's just decided, if we're going to qualify, he's looking at having one last attempt at actually qualifying from the group. I think that's gone anyway, but he thought, we need to go for it. So I'll put on another striker or whatever, or Conor Barron had just run himself into the ground because he did. He was. I think he was kind of man of the match tonight, Conor Barron, but I might be wrong. I thought Big Chermiti did well too, and he keeps getting picked by the manager. He keeps getting picked by the head coach, who I keep calling the manager. He keeps getting picked by Danny Röhl, and now Kevin Thelwell's away, so it's not as if there's the rumours about him being pressured to make sure Chermiti can get sold. Not true, not proven. It's probably Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Morata are going, look, we're going. You play him against Portuguese time. Maybe folk will want to take him back to Portugal. All the journalists were asking about him. Just get him out there. The ball might bounce off him into the back of the net, and we'll get 4 of that 8 million back. I don't know in January, but he did all right. The big man, he was putting himself about something fierce tonight. Unlucky a few times. He just seems slow. He just seems a bit too slow at times. His sharpness doesn't seem to increase much either. He's just been out injured, Alec. Give him a chance. But we're into injury time. It didn't. Braga threatened a few more times. I think we had a free kick right the last seconds of the 6 minutes of injury time, which I thought was a bit short. That's one of the ones that always tells you what you're really thinking. You might want to front up that Rangers should be winning this game. We should be winning. This is a disgrace. We need to get back into this. We need to get back in front here. We're playing against 10 men. But when the linesman, when the fourth official put up, it was 6 minutes of injury time. I thought it should be about 8 to 10 minutes with everything that's going on, the amount of substitutions in this game. But I'm quite happy it's only 6. I want to I'll take the point right now, thanks. But by the point we had the corner, it was a corner we won in the very last seconds of injury time. Couldn't do anything with it. But by that point, we were down to 10 men as well, because DIOMANDE gets sent off for the second time. 2 straight home games in the Europa League. No, it's not. Sorry, the Genk game was before. Roma was in between times. And DIOMANDE gets sent off from our first home game in this Europa League group stage, and he's got sent off from our third home game. It's a second yellow this time, as opposed to the straight red he got the last time against Genk, and it's right in the dying embers of the game. So you never know. I think we only played on for another couple of minutes at most. It was deep in injury time, but maybe it could have made a difference. We could have scored a goal if Dio had stayed on the park. I don't think so. We were playing poorly at that point, but it's. People were leaving. There's guys walking in front of me just as the ball kind of went over. I saw Dio going on the ground with the fella on top of the fella, and the fella determined to sit there. But Braga are canny. They're trying to get fouled. They're trying to get sendings off as well. And Dio gets sent off, and a few folk were given it. You've copped out again. You've left us in it again. It was too late in the game for him really to be accused of that, but. That's 2 red cards. He's going to be suspended for God knows how long now, is he? Does that get bumped up? I don't know. I should be telling you, shouldn't I? And he ends up maybe missing the rest of the group stage because he's got 2 red cards in the same group stage. But I don't know if he's been harshly dealt with. A few folks saying that it was a harsh second yellow. I'll find out. I say when I watch that in the telly. But that's it. As I say, it's all a bit. We've avoided. It was about avoiding the negatives. It was about stopping the negatives. Another rematch of a European Cup final was Nottingham Forest. Beating Malmo again. I don't know if I've played them since 1979 in Munich. Trevor Francis. That was the first European Cup final in the Olympic Stadium in Munich. The other European Cup finals in the Olympic Stadium in Munich. No, Trevor Francis scoring the winner in that game. Eventually signs for Rangers. It was in 1993. Basil Bowley scores the winner for Marseille. Eventually signs for Rangers. 1997. You had Sergio Perini and Stefan Klos involved when Dortmund beat Juventus. They ended up at Rangers. There's always a wee link there when there's a final was at Olympic Stadium European Cup. But Forest have thrashed Malmo. Utrecht got beat again. I think it was Real Betis beat them, but they already had quite a bad goal difference. Maccabi Tel Aviv got absolutely gubbed at home by Lyon. And Nice, good old reliable Nice, have lost again. They're still on nil points, so we go above them. But we go above all the other guys that are on 1 point. We've went above 3 of them as well. So I think we're 5th. I think maybe 5th bottom. I think there's now 4 teams below us in this group. For me, it was going into this game, it was all about the negative targets first of all. And I say to get a point on board, that was target number 1. Target number 2 is to make sure we get another 3 points on board, because we don't. I know it's only the second season of this style of group phase in the Europa League and in the 2 other European club competitions just now. But Nice finished bottom of the Europa League last season with 3 points. I think Karabag might also have finished with 3 points last season. So we don't want to finish with any less than maybe to get another 2 draws. So at least maybe my first target, a negative target, avoiding negatives, should be we get another 2 draws. So at least we haven't done any worse than the worst possible tally in the history of the Europa League group stage. But we want to get more than 3 points. That's the first kind of negative. The next one was to get a goal. So we've scored a goal in the night, and it's got a home goal to go with our 1 away goal so far in the group stage. And there's a few other ones. We want to make sure we don't finish bottom. We want to make sure we don't finish with a record. Because yet last night I'm watching that lazy get Kylian Mbappe. I mean, what a slacker. What a slacker. Just wasting 31 seconds during the course of that hat-trick he was scoring in Piraeus. I bet Kevin Thelwell probably had a chance to sign him during something. I'm glad he didn't. A lot of dirt being spoken about Kevin Thelwell this week, but if he's reneged on the chance to take Kylian Mbappe, because he just does absolute slacker there, taking so long, taking that extra 31 seconds to score that hat-trick, which means we've still been on the receiving end of the fastest ever hat-trick in Champions League history. Mo Salah's was 30 seconds faster than Mbappe's last night, and we were here for that one, weren't we? We were on there watching that one live in the flesh, the fastest ever Champions League hat-trick. So I don't want us involved in that kind of another record of that ilk. this season. So get another 3 points, get ourselves above the worst ever points tally, make sure we get off the bottom of the table. The next target is probably going to be getting the qualification place. I don't think that's not possible. I don't think that's going to happen. The fourth kind of negative target would be get above Celtic, and they're 6 points ahead of us with 3 games to go. I don't think that's going to happen either, probably. They've got a couple of tough games, but that's another wee kind of negative target. I'm not even thinking about qualifying now. It's just about avoiding kind of extra humiliation being heaped upon us after as has happened so many times before in the season immediately following a really great European season. We've now got to go to Budapest. Robbie Keane's Ferencváros. Normally it'd be hard enough because I think they've drawn again tonight. I was having a quick glance at the table on my way around here from the main stand. I think they've drawn tonight, so I think they're about 5th or 7th or something. They're still in the automatic qualifying spots. Ferencváros are doing really well this season, and they're back to the green and white hoops. Ferencváros, they mess about with the green and white. They have stripes. Sometimes they just have a kind of green shirt with white sleeves. They've messed about over the years with the green and white, but with Robbie Keane as their manager, Robbie Keane, who would be pretty much humiliated when he came to Celtic. He might be normally you think we're going. This could be quite good for us because Ferencváros are going so well. They've done so. It'll be so far up in the group. They'll underestimate us, but he'll be taking them into he'll be taking these boys in to training and just saying, right guys, gather round. I want to tell you about a thing called the Plantation of Ulster, to make sure they're properly up for it when we go over to Budapest. That'll be tricky. Ludogorets, I don't know how they got on the night. They were only in 3 points at the start of the evening after the first 4 games. So they were somebody we're hoping to kind of rope back in, but also we're looking at them as being, I think, not our only chance in the last 3 games, but we're by far our best chance of a victory. Getting a victory. We've got to get a win. That's another one of the negative targets. Let's make sure we get one win in this group stage. Ludogorets, the Bulgarian side, we've got them at Ibrox, and we're away to Porto, who I think have automatic qualification spots, so hopefully they'll be in no great rush to give us a do, and they may be putting the reserve teams, they may be already be through by the time we play them in Dodragao in the last game, but there's not. I'm just so glad because it's still a really tough group. We had all the easier run was the first half of the group stage, and we get 0 points from that because of the absolute state we've been in. So to get a point against Braga tonight, I thought was a fantastic achievement overall. We're going to get upset about the fact that I say that we're ahead and we're against 10 men, but that's naive. It's the best we could hope for. We got it. It's not the best we could hope for, obviously, but you know what I'm saying, folks. You know what I'm saying. I'm going to wrap this up because obviously the wind and the excitement and the general OTT emotions of this week is getting to me. I just want to say thanks very much, folks. I hit 500,000 views on this week and one man little effort of a wee podcast of mine. It's been going for a couple of years, maybe a year or so, just over the year, doing it properly, going for it. Last season, the first season, I think I properly kind of went for it. So there's podcasts out there that notch up 2 million views in the first couple of months, and all the big hitters have got billions and trillions of views. But for me, I'm really chuffed to get to hit the 500,000 views mark today. It just went over it today. I noticed that. So that's really nice, and I just want to say a big thanks to all you guys. It's not so much a community, I don't think. It's more a kind of It's a kind of salon we've got going here, a kind of cyber salon, I think, full of kind of litterateurs, poets, intellectuals, anarchists, neo-Marxists, troubadours, the whole works going on. I think I'm kind of Gertrude Stein. I think I'm maybe the kind of Gertrude Stein of Rangers Pod, and I don't really have as much talent as I'd like, but I know how to gather around the right people to talk to us and that. And if we get any more kind of more right on, I think Keir Starmer's going to have to make a public declaration about to distance himself from the fact that I voted for him at the last election. Anderson doesn't even have any St George's crosses in the background when he's doing his podcasts. My father might have been a tool maker, but it seems that Anderson's father probably made the biggest tool of all. It's a literary salon, but I'm doing end of the pier single entendres. I'll stop now, folks, and I'll talk to you before we take on the Bairns on Sunday. It's a point, trips. We're off the boards. We're on the board, and we're off the bottom. You know, and I think finishing off my podcasts with that kind of stuttering ineffectiveness is what makes this. It's not. I don't get enough views and there's no enough followers and nobody's really watching this. It's just it's more of a cult.